This podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, hosted by the BatmanUniverse.net. Check out everything related to Batman and the entire Bat family at the BatmanUniverse.net, including news and original content related to comics, movies, television, merchandise, video games, and more. Also, check out some of the other unique podcasts that TBU has to offer. Consider supporting this podcast by becoming a patron on Patreon. Even $1 can go a long way in supporting this content that you enjoy. Look for a link over at thebatmanuniverse.net to offer your support now. And now, on with the show.
Kaichō!
That's, with the Planet Pheromone, of course. I feel like all men might come from Planet Pheromone. Do you think so as well?
I was worried when I saw that second ending. I was like, he's not going to be an alien, is he?
That's all you need for this show to take another left turn, huh?
I would have been like, I would not like that because she was calling she started calling him like a perverted alien.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh no, please don't let that be. Well, actually, Misa-chan. Okay.
No, I think that would. I don't think I would have liked it as much. I think I would have been against that. I'm happy that it stays to a certain extent realistic, but I guess
realistic. You think it's realistic?
I said to a certain extent.
But that extent is hard to see.
Gotham City, like any other large metropolis, abounds in girls of all shapes and sizes. Debutantes, nurses, stenographers, and librarians.
Gotham City Library, Miss Gordon speaking.
Lopez hair removal. This is Jose.
Holy transformation. 1 minute, plain Barbara Gordon, librarian and Commissioner Gordon's daughter. And the next minute, something new has been added. Batgirl, modeled after her idol, Batman.
Holy apparition! No, Boy Wonder, I'm Batgirl. You are no longer alone, Capes Crusaders.
It took me 3 years to track down the Jade Gato, and 3 more to figure out how to steal it.
Funny, it only took me 10 minutes to figure out how to snatch it back. No matter how you do it, crime doesn't pay.
Sawate, mihi nomen est, Stella, et hoc est Batgirl the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast, episode 188, Shipper Special number 9 for February MMXX. I love shippers. Let me tell you about shippers.
Get over your own shipping bullshit.
Let me tell you about shippers.
Get over your own shipping bullshit.
Shipper.
I love shippers. Shippers. Let me tell you about shippers.
Stop talking about that. Shipper.
Shippers. I love shippers. Dick and Babs. Dick and Babs. Batman and Catwoman.
There we go, for the shippers. Batman's married to the Joker. There better not be Damien said, any shippers, I'll kill them.
Sticking bats. Batgirl the Oracle is brought to you by...
I'm Mike Gillis.
And I'm Casey Dorn, and we want to ask you an important question.
Are you sick and tired of other panel discussion shows wasting your time droning on and on about foreign policy, economics, and human rights?
Or do you want to hear conversations about things that actually matter?
We host a podcast called Radio versus the Martians. Every month we gather a panel of our nation's finest minds and plunge a rusty prison shank into the heart of tough questions that have an impact on the lives of real people like you.
Like, are drivers required to pull over for the Ghostbusters?
Is United Federation of Planets actually an oppressive dictatorship run by guidance counselors?
Is Arnold Schwarzenegger secretly a genius?
And are we being mean when we laugh at movies that are so bad they're good?
So write your congressman and let them know that Radio vs. the Martians is available on iTunes, Stitcher, and on radioversusthemartians.com.
Batgirl the Oracle is also brought to you by MileHighComics.com, your new and collectible comic book store. Mile High Comics has an inventory of over 5 million comics from the gold, silver, bronze, and modern age, and over 100,000 trade paperbacks. If you're not into the vintage stock, Mile High Comics also has a subscription service called the New Issue Comics Express, offering a discounted price for comics ready to hit the shelves. So if you're looking for vintage back issues or a great modern subscription service, be sure to check out MileHighComics.com. Oh boy, number 9, so close to 10. I don't know what 10 will be, but 9 is, all of them are very special, so we'll just focus on 9. I've decided to bring him out of the doghouse for this one. He took a year gap, and now he is back to join me. It is my former beloved, Donovan Morgan Grant.
Arigato. Hello. And, the last year's Shipper Special was pretty good. So you have my approval.
Okay.
As though you need it. But surely, no DC Comics, famed writer can compare with the might of our subject for today.
That's true, yes. And our subject is, in fact, the anime, not the manga, though I might bring up the manga just a little bit. The anime Maid-sama, or in Japanese, Kaichō wa Meido-sama, or literally, the class president is a maid. That's what it is. So we'll certainly be talking about that. Now, before we start, of course, Donovan, I do have to ask, have you been playing any PlayStation lately?
Well, Stella, it's funny you should say that, because I haven't.
Okay, just wanted to check. Our fans wanted to check as well. So Donovan knows, of course, what the ultimatum is. It's public. It's on podcasts. It's on the Twitter. It's on the Instagram.
It's oppressive?
Too. Did you say it's oppressive?
Yes.
I don't think it's oppressive. I think it's standards. Standards for a human being.
Well, never let it be said that Donovan Morgan Grant backs down from a challenge.
Okay.
And so the next time we speak, I promise you're going to hear a much different answer to your annoying question. So get ready for that.
Okay, sounds good. So let me tell you a bit about Maid-sama, and then I think we'll talk as an intro about what we think about it, which I'm interested to hear what Donovan thinks about it. And then it's been I guess 2 years now since we've done this format. So if you remember, we give a list of 5. And oftentimes we do full episodes. Last time we did Spider-Man, so there were, I think, full issues. This time I thought we only have 26 to work with. Let's do moments. So we could have potentially multiple moments in one episode. So specific moments in an episode, and ranking those and talking about them. And we alternate. And I'm thinking that Don will get to go first, since I rudely cut him out of last Shipper Special. But he can choose that. So, Maid-sama was originally a shoujo manga series by Hiro Fujiwara, and it was serialized in Hakusensha's monthly shoujo manga magazine Lala. There are 18 published volumes, and it was made into an anime beginning in 2010 for 26 episodes, and there's also an OVA as well. So the synopsis of it is, once an all-boys school, Seika High, infamous for its rowdy students, has recently become a co-ed school. However, with the female population still remaining a minority even after the change over the recent years, Misaki Ayuzawa works hard to make the school a better place for girls. She puts a lot of effort into academics and athletics and earns the trust of the teachers. Eventually, she becomes the first female student council president. Misaki has gained a reputation among the male student body as a strict, boy-hating demon dictator and as a shining hope for the teachers and fellow female students. However, despite her reputation, she secretly works part-time at a Maid cafe in order to support her ill mom and sister by returning the huge debt their father had left them, because he does actually abandon them. Unfortunately, Misaki's secret is soon discovered by Takumi Usui, a popular boy at Seika High. Instead of exposing it to the school, though, Usui keeps it for himself and even becomes a regular customer at the cafe, much to Misaki's chagrin. Known for being a genius in pretty much everything, from the academics to athletics, and for having rejected numerous confessions of his female peers, Usui takes a liking to Misaki because he finds her interesting. After going through various awkward situations, including being confronted by a forgotten childhood friend of hers, Misaki falls in love with Usui, who reciprocates, and the two soon become a couple. And I'll end there, because that's really where the anime
Spoilers!
ends. I know, that's really where the anime ends. And we can, or I'll mention maybe briefly what happens with the rest of the manga, because it's actually the first manga series that I read entirely, which is probably a betrayal to Uran High School Host Club. I should probably do that since I did that. But yeah, so we can potentially get back to that. But that's basically the arc of the anime series. So overall thoughts on the show, and I do wonder, because I haven't made you watch too many anime. I think I would say 3.
Yeah, I said 3.
We have The Irregular at Magic High School, which I know you had some problems with. Uran, which I think you liked, and then this one. So how would it rank in terms of the ones that I've recommended, and then your initial thoughts and reactions to it as you were going?
Well, I'll answer the first one. How does it rank? Because I want to know when you got into this, since I'm curious. But I was thinking about that, because we tend to trade anime recommendations. I think ever since Robotech, because I love Robotech from the jump, and when you got into it, you really liked it. You recommended to me Uran High School Host Club. I watched it and really enjoyed it. I recommended Death Note to you, which you didn't love.
That's true.
And you paid me back by recommending Irregular Magic High School. I mean, I didn't like that either.
And I guess Cowboy Bebop too. You probably recommended to me.
Yeah, that does count. Yeah, I just forgot about that, because I was going to go back to Kill La Kill.
Oh yeah, yep.
Which I enjoyed, and kind of says, I like this, but I don't know if you will. And then you were like, I'm on episode 3. Which Kill La Kill in of itself was originally recommended to me by Harrison Shute. So we have him.
Ooh, Harold!
I don't know why that made me laugh. Okay, but we're kind of even on this, and I will end the suspense right now and tell you that I really enjoyed this. I would actually say that. I would say that I enjoyed this the most out of all your recommendations, even Uran High School.
Whoa, your texts were misleading then.
Intentionally so.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I really like it. I mean, it started out similar to Uran.
Yeah.
In that when it starts out, I'm thinking to myself, it's not even so much I don't like this. It's this is not what I would usually search for. But I can kind of tell right away, this is a very I'm not gonna say typical, but a very recognizable kind of series. I got into it a bit more when I'll just end it here. I started having fun with the series pretty quickly. I mean, it wasn't by the end of the first episode, definitely by the second episode, when I realized that Ayuzawa, or Misaki Ayuzawa, is basically you. and at this point, I'd like to know. I would turn over to the host and ask you, how did you and when did you get into this show?
Yeah, I think because 2010, this was certainly not on my radar. I think I watched it a couple years ago. And I think the reason I found it is, as you know, I like to look at shipper videos, and oftentimes I'll search like anime couples or anime ships to see, and then I'll watch, you know, a music video and I'll see, oh, do you think this will be interesting or not? And then if I think it is, I might jot down what the title is and check it out later. And so I had seen, I think, the last scene possibly between Misaki and Usui, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. And so I jotted it down, but it took me a while, so because I had this list of anime to potentially check out. And then I noticed it was on Hulu, and I'm scamming my sister-in-law's Hulu account, so I ended up watching it. And initially, the voice actress, like, it took me a little bit to get used to her.
Did you watch the dub or the sub?
I ended up, both times I watched the dub.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think if I did it again, I think I would watch the sub. Did Netflix have the subtitled version?
Okay, so like I started out watching the dub, and I realized, as I know you said before, that like you like watching the Japanese version.
Yeah.
And I do too. Like when I first started out, I was looking for the sub, and then I think you reminded me that like it actually is on Netflix. So I watched the dub, which all the way through, but I did have the subtitles on with the original like Japanese like script. So it's basically 1-to-1. So I watched the dub, but like I am aware of like when the Japanese version said something different.
Yes, same. I think the reason why I watched the dub the second time is that I had already seen it once, and I felt like, oh, maybe I shouldn't switch, because normally if I whichever one I do first, I usually stick with. But I think I do like the voice actress more in the original Japanese than I do with the dub. But it just takes me some getting used to it. So it was interesting because she's like really intense. Misaki's really intense. She clearly doesn't like boys. And so I think at first, years ago or whenever I watched it, let's say 3, I was like, okay. But now as I've gotten older and, men start to annoy me a bit more each time, it's now this one, I was like, wow, she's even more of a kindred spirit than I first realized. And so I appreciated it more this second run through, and especially because starting last spring and I think through the summer, I read the manga series. So I had more of an appreciation with that as well.
I think you're really into a show or a Japanese series, when you both put in time for the anime and the manga. Like that's, I think, when you're a not to say, I'm not saying that like if you don't do that, you don't like it, but like you're a surefire fan when you do that, because you're immersing yourself in different mediums of the story.
I will say I really like Misaki. I think she's really interesting. It's sometimes frustrating just because she clearly doesn't know what her feelings are. And even in the manga, once she confesses her feelings, it's still a bit of a struggle for them to like really become a couple. So there's always that. And I do recognize there's some like cultural, social problems. Like maybe, Usui shouldn't attack that Aoi, when Aoi was dressed up as a girl and he like sexually harasses her/him. So there are some bad things that happen, but I think overall it's just like a really zany show, and the student's perspective of Misaki as this demon, and the anime will show her being the demon and the 3 idiots that just pop up everywhere, and their animation style changes and they look completely different from everybody else. And I just feel like the whole cast, similar to Uran, because I feel like the whole cast were very distinct and had their own characters. I love the cast at the Maid Cafe. Each of those maids has a different character, and then the side characters that Misaki has. Like, I think I asked you at one point in text, what episode are you on? And you were saying how her 2 friends are skulking around following Usui, and I remember that just with them having these horrible disguises and going over. So I really like it. I have fun with it, and there are plenty of shipping moments, and I think you have to spend some time wondering, to what extent does Usui really like her, or is he just trying to mess with her? And then why does he like her? Because it happens so quickly. I think he does find her interesting, and then that line starts to blur and he starts to like her. So it's kind of watching them come together is really interesting and fun as well.
I really wanted a lot of today's conversation kind of be on, not the Carrie conversation, but like just kind of asking the line that's crossed in this series, because I think even generally speaking, there's a lot of, in real life, you do not do that kind of going on with Usui in particular. And kind of credit to the female author, whose name I don't have it with me. I know you mentioned Fujiwara, because this being a shoujo series, so this is like made by women for women kind of thing. So this is not, he doesn't ever like pull up her skirt and like see her panties or like touch her thighs or anything like that specifically. But there was a lot of like getting her up against the wall. Yeah. There's a lot of like grabbing her by the arm, grabbing her by the wrist, pulling her into him kind of thing. He steals a kiss from her early on. He kind of follows her around when she's always saying, "Stop following me." Like, and there's at least 4 or 5 times where she's like, "I'm not playing, cut it out." And sometimes he'll kind of, just kind of like, skulk off and like be depressed or whatever. But like, there are a lot of, I like Usui. I like both of these characters. I don't have a problem with any of them. But like, just kind of clinically speaking, there is a lot of, okay, is this something that we should be seeing in media? And I think you and I have kind of evolved to the point where like we're openly and constantly asking these kinds of questions. And there's also like, the international element of like, to what extent does Japan take some of these things seriously, and to what extent is it just kind of a farce? Is this just a kind of like Twilight thing where, hey, it's a fantasy, like ultimately it's not doing that much harm because it's a fantasy story, or it's a romance genre. Plug for QA, but like when we had Nancy Northcott on, she was talking about how a lot of romance stories, there is a lot of like lines crossed, but like a lot of them at the same time cross those lines because they know it's attractive to the readers. Mm-hmm. And this being kind of like, a romance story, just because Usui does things that like you don't do in real life, which they really are kind of blurry in terms of like consent and kind of questioning things. That doesn't make him, in the context of the story, a bad guy, because it serves the story of fulfilling a romance kind of wish fulfillment. So like I was wondering, in your case, how you were reading him throughout the series. And again, I like the character, but genuinely, people have not seen the series and are kind of going into this. There's going to be times where American viewers are going to be like, "Oh, this guy's a dick. Like he you don't do that." And like she should really like call him an adult, or even like punch him out herself. I mean, she yells at him every single episode, but I think because of like her feelings, which kind of melt away throughout the course of the series, she's confused and is reluctant to do much towards him beyond a certain point. And I find that interesting, but there is one of those moments where it's like, okay, I wonder what Stella's thinking about this.
Yeah, I think, and I will tell you that the one moment, and it's not like I'm going to get on board with any of the moments that he does kind of bad things. Well, I think the Aoi, kind of sexually harassing Aoi, that was bad. And I mean, Misaki punches him out, I remember, for that, even though he knew that Aoi was a boy. Yes. But still, like, that whole thing is like really creepy. But the other one that I think is really, really bad is when he grabs her at the beach and gives her like a hickey on her back.
Oh yeah.
That one is like, I really can't get on board with that. It's interesting because I wonder what me at 2010 would think, that 10 years ago when this was coming out versus now. Yeah, and I think because we're becoming enlightened, I think use that word, and educated more about consent and what is, I think, healthy and not healthy, or right and wrong, toxic or not toxic, that we're starting to see like, oh, yeah, this is problematic. I think there is that idea romantically that, maybe women do want to, or when they're reading their heroine being grabbed and kissed by the hero, they really like that. But in real life, only certain circumstances you would probably really like if you're into the person, that might work. Have you given, but the consent thing is the huge deal, I would say. And so a lot of those times when she is saying, I mean, he's in her space and she hasn't really said yes to anything. I think really only at the very end.
I know.
There was something, I mean, they had to hold hands throughout that whole thing. It is rather troublesome. So I do recognize that. With Misaki, though, I'm glad that she doesn't go along with it, because I think that's the danger, of course, in this current culture, that with young men, I'll say, and then as they grow older, there's not much education potentially about what does no mean. And oftentimes young men, I think, are confused that, well, she doesn't really mean no, or if they say no to something, then it'd be a yes to something else, or to try to peer pressure, that sort of thing. This is something that unfortunately has gone on at the place that I work, where some people have been kind of forced into oral sex there. And because it's like, well, it's not real, right? And it's not real sex. People, you know, it's okay. Other people are doing it. You don't want to not do it, right? Because you'll look like a loser. So that sort of thing of being forced into that. I'm happy that Misaki advocates for herself, and she's really, really strong-willed. The thing with this story, though, is that it blurs the line, because you're like, well, is he doing it because he sees, like, he knows that deep down she likes him and that's why? Is she saying no because she's embarrassed, or does she really mean no? Like, it's a really confusing storyline in that sense. But if you just look at it with consent, then I think, like, he does make some really poor moves. But I can't, you know, like you, I really like Usui, and he comes through a lot. He really does help her out and do, sometimes to his own health detriment. He does a lot of things for her. Does that necessarily make up for other stuff? Not, you know, in the real world, absolutely not. But I'm with you that this is potentially a troublesome story. So to say, you know, does that mean that we both very much enjoyed it? Who knows?
There's one moment that I'll just have mentioned right now. It is kind of an honorable mention. It's not my main moments, but there's a moment that, like, I actually kind of, like, despite everything going on, I kind of liked, where it was the time that the Maid Cafe was like, you know, in our weekly adventures, let's have the maids dress like handsome men and kind of court the ladies. And Usui was feeling a type of way. I forget why, but, like, he catches her, like, in the locker room. And, like,
oh yeah,
what does he do? He like, I know he always, like, kind of throws his face in her face, and, like, she's against the thing. But he said something like, you know, there you are, like you're, you know, you present dominant, but you're really more submissive.
Yeah.
And like this, like, maybe halfway through the series, and I'm kind of like, that's kind of hot. But at the same time, I was reading online that, like, the narrative of the series can be seen as, like, a very strong woman secretly kind of wanting to be submissive towards a traditionally masculine man. And again, I don't think that that's, like, an inherently evil subtext to have in a romance story, but it does it can be viewed as sexist. And I think it can be seen as, like, a product of traditional gender politics in Japan, or at least, you know, people can see it as along with something else that the author didn't intend. So it's there if you watch it, but it doesn't have to, like, sour the experience. I've seen so many things a bajillion times worse than this, that it's easier to kind of separate that as, like, okay, this is, like, some sort of, like, teen romance fantasy thing, rather than the Fujiwara genuinely believes that, like, you know, women who present as dominant are actually, you know, women who kind of want their Prince Charming. Like, I don't think that's the case. I just think she wanted to write a fun story. She does, but, like, you know, your political brain is always kind of firing off every third episode that he does something.
Yeah. I agree with you there. That episode I remember also, and it's interesting just with Misa how comfortable she feels, like, tending, you know, to the girls. I mean, she just feels so much comfortable around the girls than the guys, and she likes tending to the girls. I think that's interesting. But I remember that there were two girls at a table, and they were, like, discussing, do you think she's a dominant or, you know, submissive kind of thing? Or it was like, and it almost, I wonder if they were also asking, like, is she a top or a bottom, you know, situation? Which, yeah. But yeah, I do remember that particular episode. And then there was, of course, that time where she allowed Usui to grab her chest, remember, to prove that she was a guy way back when. Yeah. But that would, I suppose, be consent, because she's the one who guided it there. So.
Yeah. I forgot about that line from the women. Yeah, because because she's like I want to say that she's a tomboy, but she hates men.
Yeah. No, I think so. I mean, how good she is at all the sports and everything. I think that she's a tomboy.
Yeah, no, it's a fact. I mean, I don't think that this is necessarily, like, a wholly complicated series, but it's very interesting to watch and talk about.
Yes. Yep. Do you know anything about, I guess, consent in Japanese culture?
I mean, Japanese culture has been majorly influenced by a lot of Western sensibilities since World War II. I mean, but at the same time, it's weird because like there's a lot of like LGBT media out there, like yaoi and yuri stuff.
Yeah.
But I know that like gay marriage is still legal there. There's generally, I think, comparatively speaking, a slightly less charitable view on LGBT people in there that there are here. I mean, it's kind of like how it was in the 90s, from what I understand, where it's like he's tolerated, but there's not a lot of respect there.
Okay.
I think it's like it's kind of the ethnocentric thing about it. Like you don't want to really talk crap on another country without having gone there.
Sure.
Even if you just kind of observe it. So from what I understand, consent, it's just one of those things where like there's a lot of like understanding of a separation between fiction and nonfiction. Like because they're like crime statistics when it comes to like rape and stuff are like devastatingly low compared to America. Like they don't have as many like problems reported or crimes enough. Now that's not to say that like it doesn't happen, because obviously a lot of things can go unreported. But generally speaking, there's not a lot of problems in terms of like the workplace and other legal things in Japan as there are in America. And people might credit that due to like, the lasciviousness of their media or things like that, because they have maid cafes, they have host clubs and stuff. So
yeah,
I'm not going to tell you this is the reason why that's not the case, but I'm not, at the same time, it does call into question how they view consent. I think based on this, they view consent about as, reasonably as we do. Where, because again, like there are times where he makes a snide remark or whatever, and then she's like, shut up. But then like there are times where she's like, no, I don't like this. Stop it. Go home. Leave me alone. Go away. I mean it. And like the series treats that as serious. So I think that like it's generally the same, I would assume.
Would you go to a maid cafe?
After this? Yeah. I gotta see how it is. But like, it was also kind of confusing because like there's like this presumed embarrassment. Like the fabric of the show is that she is embarrassed that she works there, but she's not like a concubine, not concubine, or like she's not like an escort or anything.
Yeah.
She's just in a cafe in a maid costume. I mean, which I had known was in Japan for a long time. So I'm not sure. I'm a little confused as to why that's like, her secret identity, because if she's doing it for a very specific and noble reason, but it's whatever. So like I would go there to see how I've seen people go. I don't know if it was on Vice or something, but I did see a video on YouTube of somebody going there, and it's literally like how it is in the show, where like they have gimmicks and stuff, and they'll do whatever it's the perception of like cute femininity. And at the end of the day, it's a business that you're kind of like, employing women to do these things if they choose to be there. So it's harmless. It's not like you're going to like Deja Vu and getting a lap dance. It's just, girls dressed up as things, kind of, putting on this sort of like pantomime thing just for your entertainment.
Yeah, I think to a certain extent, I mean, it's like any restaurant. I mean, you are being served. I think potentially I might feel uncomfortable just that they're calling me master, and you're being served. And I'm like, no, but we're equal. It's okay. My favorite episodes are the ones where they do a different theme. I think those are, which is practically every episode, but I think those are just a lot of fun. I think with her, just to answer that question, my perception is she's just worried about her reputation because she has to have this, she's almost having to get rid of her femininity. I think as school council president, it has to be this leader because she's the first female one, so she's really got to step it up, and be the boss. And I think if people saw her as a maid, it would almost reduce that and like, oh, well, there you are. You're just nothing but, that. And it goes back to potentially that dominant, submissive, just she's got to be really dominant at Seika High. And then to show that, oh, you're not really that. I think she's afraid of losing that authority that she's built up with other people. That's what I think anyways.
No, that's actually like a fair and blatant point. Yeah, that she presents such a tough personality. If this got out, then everything that she's worked for at the school would be lost because the boys are a bunch of latent criminals, to use psychopath terms. So
yeah, they kind of are. And it's interesting. She catches them doing, I guess they're kind of caricatures of guys, but I feel like it's closer than maybe we really realize or want to realize. But she catches them with like dirty magazines and harassing the girls, and then that whole episode where they go off on their senior class trip, and the upperclassmen warned them like the third night it's really dangerous for the girls. And I'm like, what do you think that means? And then it's because they're just like, I guess they're horny. I don't know. And they're like going after, and the teacher. I was just thinking about being a teacher in that situation and having to create, a barrier and prevent guys from assaulting the girl students. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was there were so many red flags in that one where it's just like, what do you mean this is something that happens? I mean, they say that the teachers create a barricade, but okay, seriously, your male students are psychologically primed to just get into like this sort of like Walking Dead, like rape zombie kind of thing. It's like, that's weird.
I think I would at some point, I mean, if this were, you know, where I work or something, at some point someone would be like, hey, this happens every year. Maybe we should rethink this. But no, it happens to be a tradition, I guess. So there you go. It's a fun
they're learning a lot of like traditional Japanese, like kind of like manners and senses coordination, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, any other thoughts before we get into our ranks?
No, I think I'm ready to go for it.
Okay. Would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first? I'll leave you the choice since I betrayed you last year.
Last year, that's generous. Well, I mean, like.
Oh my gosh, you!
I think you wanted me to go first. I'll go first.
Okay. So just to remind people, we are doing specific moments. So if you, I didn't prep you very well for this. If you could at least mention the episode, what number it is, and then if you want to give a synopsis of the episode, that's fine, or just give a sense, and then what the moment was. Do you have any honorable mentions?
Yeah, I have a couple. And I forgot to write. I think I forgot to write them down. Like I mentioned the moment where she's in the Maid Cafe dressed as a handsome man, and he kind of like corners her. I just thought that was that was one of the few things where I was genuinely like this is actually kind of like stimulating in terms of like, you know, if you're reading a romance story or whatever, like, you know, there's tension here, and that's kind of like I like that. Other moments, I thought it was interesting, and I thought this is going to become a running gag, that it seems like there was going to be a trend of like enemies or antagonists that they encounter who look just like Usui.
Yeah.
Because you have Tora Igarashi from the
Yep.
Gaoka. Yeah, that other school. And I was like, he looks just. I was confused for a while because the art style is they have a lot of like kind of like same face going on. So I was like, who is this guy? And then you had Kuga from like the rock group.
Yep.
And he had a crush on Misa. So I was like, okay, this is clearly a thing where like, you know, the bad guys of the series look just like, you know, the bad boy of the series. And then I think that kind of went away after that. I'm not sure if that happens again in the manga, but like I thought that was interesting. If another moment comes in my head, I will mention it. But like right now, all that comes to mind is like that moment in the locker room when the Maid Cafe were like when the maids were going around as handsome men.
Yeah, I should say that I guess reverse harems are one of my favorite genres there, because we certainly have another one here, and Uran was a reverse harem as well.
Oh, yes.
My honorable mentions from episode 19, Footman Through a Change of Pairs, specifically when Misaki visits Usui after he was injured at his apartment and nurses him back to health, and also makes terrible food for him, which will pop up again. And then episode 14, Sutane Kano of Class 1-7, and he, you know, hypnotizes her. And I just like the fact that throughout the episode, both of them are staying up. He, out of concern, like trying to keep her up, and she is doing work the entire night under the guise of doing work, but it's odd. So it's like you can kind of tell that she actually really doesn't want to fall asleep, because the whole hypnotism thing is if she falls asleep within 24 hours, she's going to hate Usui, and we can tell that she's susceptible to hypnotism. So it seems like, oh, she's really concerned about this. So that's kind of like one of those, hey, something's peeking through that, but she doesn't put her finger on it, like, oh, I wonder why I'm doing this. But, you know, as an audience, you're doing that. So those would be my two honorable mentions.
I remember what I was going to ask you. Did you ever get like a Hey Arnold vibe from this show?
A Hey Arnold vibe. Interesting.
Because there's like
because of Helga being Misaki.
Sort of, yeah. Because there's I mean, obviously Misa is a tsundere, which is basically like a disagreeable female character who's like tough on the outside and nice on the inside.
Yeah.
Like Lisa Hayes could be qualified as that. Or Asaka Langley Soryu from Evangelion is that. And like she's kind of the same thing. But like Helga is that where like, in the shadows she's like, oh, Arnold, I love you.
Yeah, with her weird gum-shaped image to him.
Yeah, and Helga like genuinely has like psychological issues, which is
Gosh. I guess I could, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying it's 1-to-1. I guess because like Usui's hair and stuff. I also noticed in the eye catch, it started out where you see those little like Usui and Misaki dolls, and somewhere along the way, the doll starts to smile once the Usui doll drops into view.
Yeah. Yep.
So like I noticed that. So there is an idea that she genuinely has feelings developed. It's not just it all changes in episode 26.
Right.
Spoilers, but okay, enough stalling. My number one pick is from episode 6.
This wind is crazy strong.
What's up? Strange to see you here, Miss Preston.
Oh, Zoe!
Need me to jump in and save you from those guys again?
No. I came to clear my head a bit. I'm thinking about telling them that I work as a maid. When I think of them discovering my secret by accident, it just feels wrong. I think that being upfront and telling them the truth about me is just the right thing to do. I think it would be closer to their idea of who they really think I am.
So, you're doing it for them, then? You're not doing it to protect yourself?
I'm afraid. I'm afraid of them seeing me in my maid outfit and of their idea of me being destroyed. I'm afraid of being looked down on. Disappointing someone who has shown you kindness it's hard.
Well, I wouldn't be disappointed, no matter what you did. And here's the proof.
What are you doing carrying that thing around for?
It's my good luck charm.
Good luck for what?
Good luck and love. It's time for us to head back to class. Sure is. Oh, well, it's your own fault for trying to take it from me.
But you... Oh, no, this is bad. What should I do? If they see that picture, no.
Should I go get it?
But even if you do, those guys down there will get to it first. What do you think you're doing? I said, what do you think you're doing?
That's the quickest way.
Yeah, to an early grave, stupid.
If you tell me to go get it, I'll go get it.
What are you talking about? Why would you even do something like that in the first place, Usui?
Why, you ask? Because... I love you, Aizawa.
Episode 6, listeners, is entitled Otoko Aizawa Juku, aka Men in the Aizawa Cram School. And the moment I'm referring to, I'm sure you have this on there, I'm sure we have a lot of the same ones, is when there's a photo of Misaki in her secret identity as a maid from the Maid Cafe, and it leaks out, and Misaki and Usui are on the rooftop, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna go get it. It's just like flying in the air off the rooftop, and she's like, don't do that, you'll die, basically. And like he's like, I'll do anything for you, and he steals a kiss, and this is like in episode 6.
Yeah.
And the image is clear in my mind where he just jumps off the thing, and she's stuck there like, what just happened? And you think that he's dead, and then like you go down, and his tie is off because they wear school uniforms. And his hair's a mess, and he's kind of bruised a bit, but it's just like sexy bad boy, like anime image of him kind of smiling and slightly wet, and then later on he's going to the hospital. But like the kiss and like the rooftop jump is number 5 for my favorite moments.
That I do like that one as well. I think it's not as shipperific. The butterflies don't rage around as much as others. And you can tell how surprised she is because that's sort of the cliche. And it seems to happen in Asian film, TV, etc., that someone kisses somebody else and that other person's eyes are open. Like I only ever see it in Japanese and Korean television shows. Or movies, potentially. So that's where she's left. I think what I love about that moment is the repercussion, or are the repercussions after that, because she's freaking out after that about what does that mean? What does that mean? And then because he knows that she's freaking out so much, he kisses Yukimura.
I know. It's blurred out.
And then after that, then that whole thing creates dominoes, because everybody thinks that Yukimura now has like a feminine side, and he's confused and he feels like he was molested. And oh man, so it's a great moment because of the chain of events that it sets off.
No, yeah, I agree. The Yukimura thing, that did make me laugh. And although I was a little confused too, because I wasn't positive at the time. I understood later on that he was doing the kind of set already. He's like, oh, you're just a perverted weirdo, which he is. I mean, he admits as much. But yeah, there's also like he tells her, like, I think by that point, because you mentioned earlier, initially in the first episode, he's like, I'm keeping your secret because I'm interested in you. I find you interesting. You're a contradiction. By this point, he knows to himself, oh man, I love this woman. So he says, I love you, kisses her, then jumps off and essentially dies for her. And like that,
oh my
for any
gosh,
teenager,
essentially dies.
Yeah, that's a lot to take in. So I thought that was when I was like, I like this because we're not playing the whole, like, you know, it's not so much, it is a will they, won't they, but we know where he stands at this point in.
Yeah.
And I liked how sure he was of his own feelings that early on in the series.
Yeah, and it's those moments that when he's really genuine, I think you really see the true Usui. So those are, yeah.
What is your number 5?
Yeah, and my number 5 is episode 21, Usui's rival? Question mark, exclamation point, Hinata Shintami.
Those guys cleaned up everything before they went home. If they were gonna clean, they could have at least thrown these away too. Oh, these are pretty terrible. So much for staying up all night to make them. Even the rice soup I made before is better than these things. Oh, there's no way that he would ever want to eat something like this monstrosity. I'm so tired.
How did she even make these? Well, at least you gave it your all, right, Aizawa? Good work today.
Sorry to keep you waiting. I brought our bags, too.
I really don't understand them at all.
Huh?
How can they care so much for each other and yet never tell each other how they feel? Why do they avoid it instead of trying to move forward?
What are you grumbling about?
And this is where Misaki forces the sports clubs to clean up their club rooms, but they are really upset because they know it's going to take a long time and they want food. So she gets people, I guess her student council, to make rice balls, and she makes terrible rice balls, and which connects back to the food that he had eaten before in my honorable mention. So she makes terrible rice balls, so terrible in fact that the sound effect for people eating it is like this clanking noise because of how hard it is. So anyways, so everything is done and she is passed out. She's just really tired and she's in, I'll call it the home ec room, and Usui comes in and he hilariously eats the terrible rice balls, which I think just him eating anything that she makes and being willing to do that shows his affection for her, even though it's because I think it's just like a gift that she has given him and he accepts anything that she'll give him. With the soup in the previous episode that I mentioned, but with this, I think, hey, this is something that Misaki made, so I'm going to eat it even though it's terrible. And he actually leans her up against him so she can sleep, and then later on he leaves and she wakes up and he's like, where'd the rice balls go? So either he threw them away, which I think is unlikely, or he ate them all. But just like a really sweet moment. I think that, again, it also points that he's not, while he is kind of perverted, he's not like going to take advantage of someone when they're sleeping, and just a sweet moment. Yeah, just a sweet moment of eating the terrible rice balls that she made because she made them, and then having her rest against him. So that's my number 5.
Yeah, he's never like, I think he's perfect because he didn't miss as much. But like, he's never. That never even occurred to me because it never occurs to the show that like when she's sleeping, he's like, now's my chance, wah ha ha, because he's very around her like chivalrous, like there's and she's even chauvinist, but like I like the moment. I like that moment where he eats her food, and maybe I guess another honorable mention is that like he mentions later on, because when he was laid up in his house and she fed him rice soup, someone asked him like, oh, what do you want for lunch or snack? He says rice soup, and she's like, oh. My rice soup or whatever, which I thought was kind of sweet.
Yeah. Yep. So
that's a good one. That is a good one. So going on to my number 4. Oh, yeah. As mentioned earlier, we go from episode 6 to episode 8. My number 4, I put in my notes, Usui Misa versus Tora Igarashi, a.k.a. Miyabigaoka Gakuin-e. Misaki goes to Miyabigaoka.
I'm excited to see how you're going to fit in at Miyabigaoka, Miss President.
Wait a minute. You got this all wrong.
Guess I've got no choice. This will do, right? If it isn't enough for you, then you've got to do something more interesting.
More interesting?
Being the heir to the Igarashi conglomerate has its perks. I can get whatever girl I want, whenever I want. But I'm getting sick of the meek, obedient types. I was hoping for a bit more out of you, though. But in the end, you were just in it for the money, too. You're just like the rest of them. Meaning, as far as girls go, you're completely worthless.
You're one pathetic excuse for a man. Have you always looked down on people like this? If you honestly believe that everyone around you is worthless, then that's your own fault, isn't it? There's not a single person in this world who's worthless! The reason I came here today was to tell you one thing and one thing only. I refuse your invitation to Miyabigaoka. I have no intention of giving up my position as Seika High Student Council President.
You really are an interesting girl, aren't you? Nice try. You may do Aikido, but I do Judo. My groundwork is my specialty.
No, stop! Slowly.
Yeah, I think that's enough. What about my guys? They wouldn't let me in, so I had to be a little mean. Sorry about that. Still, it looks like you're the one who's being really mean. Right, you perverted man-child? You've got some balls talking to me like that.
Whatever. Unfortunately, you're going to have to find someone else to harass. You can't just touch her whenever you want, so keep your hands to yourself.
Look who's talking!
Which is essentially like the school president of the, I'm not going to say this in that school again, of that other school. There were students from both Seika and that school who got in a fight, basically over class. One of them was kind of making fun of oh, you guys are lower class scum or some such thing. So they got in a fight, and Saki intervenes as school president, I demand that you apologize. There's so much rank with the school president thing, right? There's so many responsibilities. It's basically she runs the school because you never see a teacher, or I think you see teacher once. Anyways, tangent. So the school president of that school comes over and offers her scholarship into his school. And long story short, she's kind of torn between leaving Seika and staying with Seika. But she goes over there. He spills a drink on her, or she spills a drink on herself. So she changes clothes, and he has a maid uniform. I believe he found out her identity. So she's in this maid costume, and he presumes that she's only interested in him for his money or what have you. So he's like, okay, if you want me to pay you, I want you to do whatever. I want you to be my maid for me. Very, very skeevy. And the situation gets to the point where he is on top of her. He's holding her arms together.
Yep.
And she tries to kick him off her, but she's like, you have judo, or you have aikido, but I have judo, which I think aikido is a better martial arts discipline, but whatever. It's a very bad look, and in very like shoujo anime form, she like just barely utters Usui's name, and he smashes at the door and he just kicks it open like he's Batman, and he's like, sorry about your friends, they got in my way. He's like a whole hallway full of guys beaten up, and he just like, I thought there was gonna be a fight, but he got and just takes her out of there, and she's like, how'd you get here? He's like, well, you said my name, and the sort of like chibi, like, animation, you see the back of her head, but you'll see like sort of a word balloon where she's like, no, I didn't, and that whole bit was really good.
Yeah. Yes, thank you for mentioning that cringe-worthy scene. I mean, purposely getting his vice president to spill whatever juice that was, and then she has to take a shower, and then her clothes are taken, and the maid thing. Yeah. Whoo! Gives you the creeps. But yeah, the fact that she, ooh, sue, and then he pops in and rescues her. So yeah, knight in shining armor situation. And again, that he goes to great lengths to help and save her. She doesn't necessarily need it all the time, but I think in that situation, you definitely do need someone to help you out.
That had a Harvey Weinstein, like Matt Lauer vibes all over it. Like this.
Oh gosh, yeah.
This like the conniving of like her to be in that situation, and I mean, yeah, again, because like there was an earlier episode we might mention where like she defended herself in front of like weirdos before.
Yep.
This is one of those things where like, yeah, I think critics had said, this woman needs a man or whatever. But again, it is a fantasy of like, you're a strong character, but when you need help, you have a partner who's going to be there, and it's a little ridiculous because like there's no earthly way he could have heard that. But like, I mean, he may have just had incredible timing, so who knows?
Yeah, I feel like he may have tried to, because he also has the uniform on, the class uniform. So did he pull like a Luke Skywalker Han Solo and beat up somebody and took their clothing, and then, so was he, I feel like he was already on his way once he found out she was there, because he knew that this guy was probably up to no good.
Who is it? Someone who loves you.
Oh, man. Yes, I thought I had something to say, but now I've forgotten. Okay. So my number 4 is episode 24, Lovey-Dovey Through Maid Latte.
What is he to me now? How am I supposed to answer that? What are you doing here? Everything you say is so embarrassing that I can't stand it!
How cruel.
Look, shut up already!
In that case, I'll express myself through action, too.
And this episode, we have, and I should have, I guess, mentioned Hinata that I came in the previous one, is a childhood friend that comes back, and he has loved Misa for forever and is trying to reclaim that love. And so now there's this rivalry between Usui and Hinata, and occasionally, I guess there are totems or whatever is happening there, or dogs, so occasionally that'll pop up and there's growling, and you see these images of dogs, and the manager will be like, are there dogs in here? So even though it's there are a lot of fun things that poke through, kind of like the monkey and the banana in Uran. We've got similar things that like are impossible to have happen. So the manager will get all lovey-dovey and a bunch of flowers will pop up and she's like, oh no, where all these flowers come from?
Flowers of
I know. So I love that. So this one specifically at the Maid Cafe, they are cosplaying as characters from the anime Maid Witches, and Misaki did a lot of research and I think watched all of the anime, which surprised Aoi, because I think Aoi just thought that Misaki was going to watch one or two, and she does some spells and things as she's working. And then later on, Aoi is asking Misaki to explain her relationship with Usui, and I feel like, I don't know if you get this sense, but I feel like Aoi also develops a crush on Misaki as we go through. I think it's especially like the beach house. I think there are other things, like there's some jealousy between or Aoi towards Usui, and I think that he likes Misaki. But anyways, Misaki thinks about it while taking out the trash. She can't really put her finger on it, which I think annoys Aoi and other people, like, clearly you like him. And she's taking out the trash, and Usui is waiting for her, which is a recurrent theme because he does often wait for her outside. And he overheard the conversation and also wants to know. So she hides her embarrassment. She punches him. He blocks it and tells her that this is always how she deals with things. Instead of lying, she gets really aggressive. But he's going to make his feelings clear instead. And he pulls her into an embrace and murmurs a no lying spell in her ear, demanding she answer his question truthfully. And she somewhat answers off topic, just that, you don't have the power, you're not a witch kind of thing. But she actually stops resisting his hug and kind of like leans into it and pulls towards him. And so I like that moment that she kind of, obviously it's a little forceful. So again, the consent question, but the fact that she does, I think, let down her guard and she doesn't want to lie. So she doesn't say anything and just gets forceful instead. So you're starting to get a peek into what she really thinks. So that's what I like about number 4.
Yeah, I like that. I always find it funny when anime references like that anime is a thing.
Anime? Yeah,
it's like, watch these DVDs and even see like a shot of it where like it's kind of Sailor Moon-esque, where like you have the magical girls thing, and that's it's funny because like this is such a thing in Japanese culture. Obviously, you're not surprised to learn that, but like this show it's not unrealistic, but it's very like dynamic, kind of like illustration where they have different faces and stuff, and they do the whole like anime thing where like someone's upset and like has a giant head and all that kind of stuff, and like everything with the 3 idiots. So it's amusing whenever they say, watch this anime. I'm like, and you guys aren't in anime, but what have you.
I guess, is it kind of like Shazam, where maybe not, because I guess Superman was around, but isn't there a superhero film, or haven't there been, where people are like reading comic books and like, oh, this is like this? Would you say it's similar to that?
Or like in early Marvel comic books when like the Fantastic Four existed as a comic book and also were the Fantastic Four.
Yeah, that's true.
Made no sense. No, I like that episode too. I think that's also sort of an honorable mention, where he mutters a spell in her ear and said, "Now you can't lie." And I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. Like, it's weird because like this is such. I was actually thinking about Twilight a lot when I was watching the series.
Oh my gosh, Donovan! And who made you watch Twilight?
You made me watch Twilight.
I know, man alive. What good times.
I remember laughing horribly when you first see Edward Cullen. He looks like he's about to like vomit through his butt. But like
I know. Gosh.
But my point is that like I understand how a lot of this series, like Twilight, is engineered to get the butterflies up, as you say. And that was a moment that like I think kind of worked for me, where like and now you can't lie, and she's all kind of like flushing herself like, yeah, it's pretty good. I wish I would work in real life. Is that also the episode where what's the rival's name again? Is it Hinata?
Hinata, yeah.
Hinata. I guess it's a unisex name in Japan, because I've heard Hinata for the female character. He was warned when he was about to go back home that, like, what if your great love already has somebody? He kind of brushed that off. But when he sees the two of them, he starts like tears are streaming down his eyes. I really like that bit, and if it's from the same episode, that's an honorable moment of mine. Just because I you know me, I love tormentous moments in romance, like when there's a lot of emotional violence, like in Macross, where Lisa comes to Rick's like trailer, but Minmei's already there. I think it was like number 2 on my list. So like stuff like that, I kind of live for that kind of stuff.
What does that say about you as a person?
Probably that I'm a bad person.
You like characters being tormented in their love.
I just find it more realistic.
Oh, well, I guess that's true. Love is certainly not an easy pathway.
Indeed. So I mean, the anime ends in part of the series where he says, "I'm not going to give up." So I'm sure that like it's not the last. I don't think it's the last time we see him. I think we see him in the credits for the final episode. So what have you. But that was your go, I believe. I was talking for a while, so I apologize.
Correct.
And I'm going to continue talk because my number 3 is episode 14. I have another versus because my action brain can't separate certain things. I wrote down Usui and Misa versus Tsutane Kano, and this comes from episode 14, which is entitled Echine Nanakumi Kano Sotoru, Tsutane Kano of class 1-7.
It's really starting to get to you, isn't it, President? Besides, there's no way I'd ever hurt you. You're always jumping into things alone. Like yesterday, you could have waited for me instead of confronting Kano alone.
And just why should I have to wait for you? I'm gonna talk to Kano.
The thing about hypnosis is, if the listener feels even the slightest bit of doubt, the hypnotic suggestion won't be effective. That's why you can't have any control over me. As President, you're the one person I'd never want to hate me.
There you go again. You're always making fun of me. You really piss me off. You know that? But I'm so grateful to you. I wonder if I'll forget about that too. Gratitude for the sports festival, for Mia Bigaoka, and for the school festival. I still haven't repaid you for everything, for all the things you've done for me.
That's fine. Even if you never repay me, I'll help you whenever you need. And I will make you fall in love with me over and over again. Just leave it to your master.
Now you're just talking stupid, dummy.
"23 hours, 55 minutes. Just 5 minutes were left to go, but it would appear that I am the victor."
And this is the episode you mentioned earlier where like this guy in a hoodie and glasses has been hypnotizing students. Bear with us, listeners. I forget what the gimmick is. It's an open house at the school to have more female enrollment. And he doesn't like girls. He's a misogynist. So he just wants to kind of like connive things to make girls not come to the school. So he's been hypnotizing people. And because Misaki is coordinating all these events, he seeks to hypnotize her. And this is found out by both Misaki and Usui. And it's weird. The context of the series is a little unclear in kind of a Steven Universe way because, like, you're not sure to what extent people are aware of Usui and Misaki, like, as a couple. I mean, some characters are like Aoi, but, like, he says, like, I must take down this power couple, which is kind of funny to me. So he hypnotizes Misaki to hate Usui the next time she falls asleep. She stays up and she's so grumbly in this episode, just like because Usui is by her side the entire time, and he is trying to make sure that she doesn't fall asleep. And there's that scene in the staircase at the school, and that was the part I think I texted you saying, "Where are the teachers in the school? There's do what you want." But like there's a cliffhanger where like she seemingly falls asleep, and he's like that's, and then Kano just shows up. He's like, "It's been 24 hours. The power couple is finally taken down." Dun dun dun. And I was like, this is ridiculously awesome. So like that bit I quite enjoyed. That's my number 3.
I will say that the teachers are not around a lot, and then there are times when a teacher does something that Misaki somehow can override or correct the teacher. Because there's that one time where Hitani was eating something and the teacher was about to take it away, and Hitani gave like these puppy dog eyes, and then the teacher's like, it's okay. And then Misaki pops up and is like, no, it's not okay, master. There's rules for the reason. And it's like, oh, okay. So she can supersede all. I think that whole episode is amazing, especially when she's like supposed to be quote unquote drunk, and he videos her like, I'm drunk.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, but the climactic scene, right, where it's like 5 minutes to go or whatever, and they're there, and again, just a peek through, I think, with the feelings and getting to know this guy that you thought maybe would be a one-off, but he sure does pop in a lot and becomes good friends with Yukimura.
Yeah, I like the fact that it's a very like non-toxic thing that like he witnesses the strength of Misaki and gets to know the other girls, and like it's kind of like American History X, where he just kind of like does stuff with them and gets to know them, so he's not sexist anymore. And like, he kind of continually shows up. Although he kind of has his eye on Misaki and Usui as a couple. But at that point, I was like, I really enjoy it. I mean, it's so like manipulative and gimmicky on the author's part, but I like how there's just these random like villains in the show. Like, where did he come from? But I thought that was really cool. It was like it's a rare one where it seems that because Misaki's the main character, but it was like this guy particularly had it out for Usui because he could not hypnotize Usui. And like there's a moment where like he's like, it doesn't work on anybody who has the slightest bit of doubt. Don't mess with me.
Yeah.
So I was like, I got to see where this goes. So that was great.
Yeah. And it seems like he has the best sense that there is something between Usui and Misaki, because I think everyone else is either clueless or they'd be like, no, that's ridiculous. They would never get along or go together. So it's interesting that he has that insight.
Yeah. I think everyone is him and Aoi are the ones who kind of like, there's always they're given side eye and like,
And the manager is more of like a shipper, like, oh, but you two belong together.
Yeah, exactly. The manager who like, not to kind of like, backwards or backhandedly critique the art design, looks like she's a student. Like she doesn't look all that older. I think she's like 30 years old.
Yeah.
And they all like one of the maids with the glasses looked. I would have thought would have been like the manager because she looked a little bit older, but like whatever. Yeah, she's always like around like, oh, I'm sure you two are a couple. He's your boyfriend. It's so cute that he's like stalks you every night.
Yeah, I know, right? Do you have a favorite maid since we're on the topic of those characters?
I kind of like the one. I think her name was Erica.
Yeah, that's my favorite too.
Yeah, she reminds me of Sailor Jupiter, and like the fact that like I think she was the one that like wasn't she the one that was teamed up with Misaki when they were in the footman competition, or was that another maid?
No, I think it wasn't it the one with glasses that you were talking about before?
Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah. Oh yeah, I
think Erica couldn't because of her chest size.
Yes, it was a technical obstacle.
Oh my gosh, what a way to phrase that.
Oh yeah. Nonetheless, yeah, and I agree with you. Erica's pretty cool.
Obstacle. Okay. I don't even know how to recover from that. It was an obstacle. They had to pretend to be men. You can't tie larger breasts down. My goodness.
I would have thought that they would like stuff their shirts, because I knew girls who stuffed their shirts, and it was a little weird. But
stuffed their shirts? What do you mean?
Oh, isn't that a thing where like tweens and teenagers who like hope to be more seen as more?
Oh, sure, but we need the opposite to be a man.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So
what are you thinking? Yeah, we have to tie them down in order to protect. Okay, yeah, flat chest there. That's why Misaki was fine. She didn't have much of a chest there. Okay, what a weird topic.
Edit all of that out.
I know. No, I don't think so. At number 3 is episode 17, Usui Becomes the Enemy.
But Misa, you really are reckless, aren't you? But I guess I've come to expect that from you by now.
Oh, sweet. I'm sorry.
I don't forgive you. What would you do if I said that?
Because you entered the stupid tournament, and you knew how Aoi felt.
I didn't like it. You being the beach princess. Putting on clothes that would make guys stare at you. Having your picture taken with them while they thought dirty thoughts about you. I just didn't want to see you like that, Ayuzawa, that's all.
That's all?
What do you mean?
My dignity was your only reason for trying so hard to win?
Yes.
That's all it was? Aoi's situation is way more important than something like that.
To me, this is more important. You still don't get it?
Get what? You're always playing around, so how can I get anything?
Fine, then look at me. Right now, I'm not playing around.
Oh, sweet. Fireworks.
Oh yeah, they're supposed to close the festival with a fireworks display.
That's just because I got sunburned.
Yeah.
Enough! Let's hurry and go back.
Yeah, I get it.
And this takes place on the second day of their summer vacation, so the hickey may still be on her back. Also, it may have faded, I don't know. So I should say Aoi likes to dress as a Lolita type little girl.
Yeah, you know what that is.
Do I know what a Lolita type?
Yeah.
I do? Would you like to explain to the audience?
Yeah, I mean, you can. I'm not pulling a Donald Trump. I'm genuinely wondering.
You can't. No, I gave you the option. So
okay, sure.
He is a teen idol, dresses as Lolita type, which is a
kind of like cute small girl, or a kind of like just kind of very fancy, very kind of like glamored up young person, generally female. I guess that would be kawaii if it was male or female, but yeah, it's kind of this sort of small young girl presentation.
And of course, with reference to that book that you had just read, right, by Nabokov.
Yeah.
So Aoi, do you consider that cross-dressing? I guess technically it is.
I mean, Aoi's always cross-dressing.
Yeah, oh, okay. I just wasn't sure if that's like your job. Is it still considered cross-dressing, or is it called something else kind of thing?
Yeah, there's a big gender conversation in this series between Aoi and Yukimura that we can kind of get into. But continue, please. I interrupted you, and I apologize.
Oh, no worries. So anyways, Aoi is kind of kicked out of his home a lot because his father doesn't like this behavior, I'll say. Mm-hmm. And he manages to find his way to the beach house where his manager's sister runs this beach house, and the sister makes him go to work and doesn't allow him to dress up. But she says, if you win this volleyball competition, you may dress up. And he needs to have, I think it's co-ed, and he needs to have someone older maybe. I can't remember the exact, someone that's athletic, and who's that going to be? Well, it's going to be Misaki. So Misaki has a certain fondness for Aoi and wants him to be able to be himself. And so they compete. And it's all fine and good until you find out that the winner is going to be like a beach queen, and, we'll have doting admirers and things like that. And Usui's not having any of that. So he partners up with Erica and basically want to win. I think Erica just wants to win for funsies, but he wants to win so that Misaki's not objectified by other people that aren't him. And so she gets really upset. He actually gets injured again, protecting her because she's about to run into the judge's chair that's on a volleyball court. And they have this conversation on the beach afterwards, and she's asking, why did you do that? I was trying to help Aoi out. And he's like, you don't know, or you don't understand. And he has this really frank and genuine conversation that I didn't like. It made me feel uncomfortable that people would be ogling you. And she's still confused. She's like, you're always joking around. How am I supposed to know? And then he stops her and says, look at me now. Am I joking around? And this is the moment, they both lean in for a kiss. So it's going to be the second kiss. And it's of her own volition. Her eyes are closing. They're both leaning in. And then fireworks happen. So it's a big nope. But it was a really just nice, genuine moment. And you could feel it. And the fact that she, I think, is also admitting her feelings for him in leaning into that moment was why this is my number 3.
I was going to ask if you were giving somebody a hickey, but that's a little personal. So I'll just go back and say that fireworks is a big theme of this series.
What? Oh my gosh, fireworks is a big theme. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because at the end of the first theme, which I kind of figured, like, there's that shot of like their heads watching fireworks, and I was like, something tells me this is how the series is going to end.
It could be. Who knows?
Indeed so. But like, it's also kind of fun to see him whenever he is serious. I know there's a bit in the earlier in the series where he's like, like you actually are not taking the boys' opinions into account, which I thought was a little bit like, yeah, but their opinions are crap. Like they're not actually suggesting good ideas. But whenever he's serious and like kind of is not messing with her, that's always a point of interest for the show.
Absolutely.
Because he's always kind of like aloof, and he's always like, kind of disregarding the admirers of the other girls. So it can be tricky to get a read on this bloke. Nonetheless, it's interesting.
So now on to number 2.
Yes. And I suppose it's back to me. My number 2 is from episode 19. Pei Kumanaoshi di Footman. Footman through a change of pairs. As we mentioned.
His face is looking more and more pain. Misa and Usui's round seems like it's going on forever. The whole reason I came here was because I wanted to protect the shop and the people in it. I wanted to protect it, no matter what the cost. But that's enough. Just stop it!
Oh, is something the matter?
My humblest apologies. The truth is, both of his arms are seriously injured. I believe he must receive medical attention at once.
You there. Is this indeed the truth?
You can see it, can't you? He's obviously in pain.
And yet he said nothing of it, did he? Meaning that, regardless of his injuries, he is determined to fulfill his duties no matter what, yes? He may be in pain, but for you to take his work away in front of his master is nothing short of disgraceful. It would seem to me that your relationship is lacking in trust.
At your shop, looking out for one another may mean sitting back and watching as your comrades push themselves until they collapse. But at our shop, we look out for one another so that we don't collapse. It's because they support me that I want to support them too. The reason I've made it this far is because even though I caused them trouble, they've supported me every step of the way. Because this is that kind of shop. We can give our all to the customers in order to put them at ease and make them happy. That's the kind of thoughtful place it is. And I love it from the bottom of my heart. Now, if you'll please excuse us. Misa! Someone, please call a taxi right away. We have to get him to a hospital quickly.
And in this episode, Igarashi's school is back, and I mean, this is actually said in the previous episode. The rival school is back, and they're so rich that they have the funds to buy out the Maid latte and transform it into like a butler's latte, which is a little, it's just funny to me. So there's a competition to see who would be the first, who would be hired for this job, and it's OTT as you might expect from anime. They have to run up the hills carrying people on their backs and stuff, but they also have to kind of know the best kind of cutlery and the best kind of English style presentation of a dining set and the likes. Misa can't have this, so she teams up with one of the maids to. I think the idea is if she wins, she will convince them to not do this. So you have a competition. It's revealed that there are men in these there parts, women in these there parts, women posing as men, Aoi is discovered and is disqualified. Air has discovered and is disqualified. She was teamed up with Misaki, and it's left. People are also questioning. There are partners who were Usui and Misaki, and but we mentioned this before. But my moment that I want to mention is when they're on the balcony during a break, and Misaki leans out and falls all over. And Usui rushes to kind of crush her fall, but she lands on him, and he is injured from the fall. But he doesn't want to be disqualified. He wants to help her win, so he kind of hides this. Like his wrist is busted and stuff. And so they're presenting to the VP of the school, who's very haughty, and he's like, what's going on? Misaki knows that Usui's hurt, so she kind of carries the brunt of the work for it. But Usui is so dedicated to make sure that no one suspects his injuries that he starts playing the violin, and this goes on for an untold amount of time. And Masaki's like, stop. He's like, what's the matter? Is there something I should know? And she kind of admonishes the VP because, real maids or butlers should care for one another to give the best service. And that means making sure that nobody's hurt and what have you. All that bit I found to be very, very heartening. And he's eventually kind of convinced to kind of let the maid latte live. All's well that ends well. But like that bit where not even so much the fall itself, but the aftermath of the fall where Usui is trying to fight through the pain, but Misaki's trying to help him out as well as finish the competition is my number 2. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, him protecting her and her also, just showing great concern, and he knows what's on the line for Maid Latte, and so he's there to try to destroy that basically, and not destroy Maid Latte, but the Mia Bigo sort of. I guess that's not really their group, but it's a group of people, but I can't remember what the group is called, the dining group.
The Footmans or something?
Yeah. I don't know. The vice president, Oh, the Foot Clan. You're right. That is what it was. Yeah, that whole thing, just how concerned she is for him and him, fighting through the pain and the tension with that. It's also just really nerve-wracking because you've got the vice president who's a jerk, and he's sitting there and just asking him to keep on and do more ridiculous things in order to try to get them disqualified and rejected, and they keep fighting. So it's a good one.
It's so over the top. Some bits are obvious. Like, okay, if you're going to compete in this thing, you should know how to set a dining table. And without having read the manga, I kind of clicked what Usui's deal was from like the information given to us by the end theme animation, where you kind of see like, okay, well, how does he know how to set this, and how does he know about like the English style, tea set and all that kind of stuff? And I was like, okay, there we go. There's a little bit of inference into his past, but I just liked how like high stakes and like there's like 100 of these guys, 100 teenage boys just competing for this thing randomly that was set up like a week ago. To me it reminded me of like a Pokemon tournament or something like that, where it's like the stakes have never been higher.
And the fact that the first event is piggyback running several miles
in a butler uniform. There are a bunch of Alfreds running around carrying each other. It's just like, what is this show?
I don't know. I guess you just need to have endurance to be a butler.
I mean, yes, and having worked in a hotel restaurant, you absolutely do. But damn, I mean, like it's probably a strongman competition. But and the fact that like Misaki can hack it is pretty cool. You can kind of see a lot more for physical prowess. So like. I dug it. It was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, in the manga, it does go into his past because it's so mysterious. You have no idea what it is. And you find out he's, I guess it's kind of similar to our lead, Uran. Yeah, a bit, because he is an illegitimate son, and you find out what is, England and what's the connection with that in Japan. Kind of a half-brother comes back, and there's all this stuff, and so it delves more into that, but we don't really get that here in the series, which I think with anime, the popularity, I think, of the manga sort of informs whether the anime will continue. Mm-hmm. At least that's what I've read. So I think while it was popular, it wasn't probably as popular as, I don't know, Sword Art Online or whatever one, Attack on Titan or whatever ones have been going on for so long. One Piece, has hundreds of episodes, doesn't it? Or your little boxing one that you like.
Well, yeah, I was actually going to say, because Ippo has over 1,200 chapters. They have like 3 series, and like the series they've barely scratched halfway through the manga, but like every few years they have like a 26 episode season.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so we just didn't get that. And I will say that it's rather reordered. So like the last episode is earlier. Like it's even the last episode that we see in the anime, that happens before the witch episode, the lovey-dovey that I mentioned.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so there's so they're kind of together but not really together a little sooner and working on things a little bit more, and then it's just like her getting through her self-conscious behavior or whatever it is, and then overcoming his past and all of that stuff. So just to give you insight into what the manga does.
His brother is John Cena.
Oh gosh, yeah, I knew when I was watching that trailer. But so this is a side of Fast and Furious 9. Sorry, the trailer just came out yesterday. When I was watching it, all this stuff was happening, and they're like saying, I can't remember what it was. Like, what's going on with this guy? And I'm like, oh, I think it's his brother. And then it's like, da 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 da. And then Michelle Rodriguez, he's his brother. I'm like, oh, okay, there we go.
I saw that a mile away. I showed this to my dad, and like a full 30 seconds, he was like, I bet he's his brother. And then he's Dom's brother. We both started laughing.
I know. Oh my gosh. I mean, the biggest thing though is Han, of course, appearing out of the dead, still eating his chips and everything from beyond the grave. So they've got some explaining to do with that, I have to say.
I am so in. Shut up and take my money.
I know. Of all this, some people like really, they roll their eyes at this whole thing, but I'm like, no, you don't understand. It is so good. And there are so many of them, but they keep getting better, more outrageous. Kind of like Mission Impossible. I feel like those actually get better too as you go along. But anyways, we have gone off the rails. My number 2 was, it was really close with my number 2 and number 1. Oh. But my number 2 is episode 25, Hinata and Masaki and Usui. So, man, this love triangle thing here.
Mm. Would you mind telling me my future with Misa, too?
Is it just my imagination, or are there dogs in here? Very well. I shall now tell your fortune. Toda, Esperano, Eric Chamomile. She's totally avoiding eye contact.
What does the reading say? Please be totally honest.
I see. Very well. For you two, there is no future at all.
Shock.
The crystal ball sees fire and water. You two have the worst of compatibility. Neither one of you can accept the other. However, if you wish to continue being with each other, you will have to attempt the great challenge that awaits, or else your future is doomed for certain failure.
But she didn't have anything to say about us.
Can't you do some kind of follow-up or something?
Please, oh wise Erica!
We should probably get out of here. We'll just be on our way. Don't mind us.
See you tomorrow.
Oh, bye, Misa. Good work today.
Well, you waited for me?
That bottomless pit Sanshida was hanging around for a while, too. But he finally left. That bother you?
Why should it?
There may be some unexpected turn of events awaiting you, Ayuzawa. That is, if Mr. Sanshida hits a winning home run from behind.
Hey!
I see. Our compatibility was just that terrible, was it?
Wait a minute, Usui. Don't tell me that you actually believe any of that fortune-telling crap.
Is that why you're so cold towards me, Misa?
No, that's because you're a perverted freak.
It must be our compatibility that makes you say that.
Are you some kind of idiot?
Fire and water can never be together.
What? So you're saying you plan to give up on me over something stupid like this? That is, I mean,
And I will say with Hinata that in the manga, you can kind of tell maybe a bit with the anime, but not as much. Something could potentially happen between the sister and Hinata. So he's not like destined to be alone, but there's some flirtation there. I can't remember her name.
Because they mentioned that like they watched the same show when they were kids or something like that.
Yeah, the little burger thing. Suzuna, I think is her name,
yes.
Maybe. So later on, there might be something between them. So this episode, there are 2 parts I would really say, because ends with a festival, but it's this first part that I really want to focus on, and there's another Maid latte theme day, and it's fortune telling, which Erica, this is one of the reasons why I love Erica, just because of, especially in the dub, because I think maybe the subtitle version has something different, but she just has really weird chants that she does that always involves her name, like Miri Erica. I don't know, it's just really weird. But so she sets herself up as this fortune teller. And different people get their fortunes told, like the idiots get their fortune told. Can't remember what happened, but that's pretty negative. All of these people are coming up and saying, what is my fortune with Misaki? And Misaki's awkwardly standing over there. So the idiots, no future basically. Hinata goes up, the childhood friend, and that future with Misaki is flat as a paper balloon. And then Usui gets up, he's like, well, in that case, because he probably thought that, hey, it's going to be positive, that one is incompatible like fire and water, and that there's going to be some trial ahead, and if they compete, or if they complete that trial, they might work out. So everyone is pretty depressed over this, and the day goes on, you don't really see where Usui went. Misaki finishes her shift, and guess who's there, of course, Usui. And he appears depressed about the fortune, and my favorite it's so hard to choose this, but she has this Freudian slip, which is one of the most open things she had said, it just comes out where like he's going on and on, like we're not going to make it, all that stuff, and she says, are you going to give up on me over something like this, easily over something like this? And then she stops right away, her eyes get wide because she realized what she has said. Usui is shocked as well, and then they just stand there in silence. And it's just one of my favorite moments, just that slip there of, whoa, and then you realize, like, hey, you're kind of understanding now what is at stake and how you feel about him. So, I absolutely love that moment. Afterwards, unfortunately, with Hinata, he pops up and sees them and then walks away. But just focusing on those two, I love that moment.
Okay, it must have been episode 25, so I jumped the gun when I mentioned him, like, kind of crying, but, like, yeah, that was a good moment.
Kind of crying.
Well, it was one of those sad things. Hinata was a character that, like, because in the credits, the second theme, you start seeing him, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I've not seen that guy in the series before, so who is he? And then like, he shows up, like, in the last, like, 5 episodes. He's kind of like Kaoru from Eva. But, like, he's a good character, because I like the idea that, like, Usui's rival isn't some, rival. He's not Jacob the werewolf, where he's just, like, kind of angry and whatever, and, like, lusting after children. Like, he's an aloof, like, happy-go-lucky character who you would not presume to be in some sort of, like, test for Usui. And Usui displays a lot of negative characteristics because of him. Like, he calls him some sort of name and stuff. But I like that moment too, where it was like, you gotta give up on me, and like her anger is so honest that, like, it can't help but betray her romantic feelings. That's why I like her as a character. Like, she's even if you can kind of argue politically in terms of, like, the gender politics of the series, it's entertaining how touch and go the romance is on her side, and it's kind of fun seeing her blush and yell and clench her eyes shut, and then stuff always kind of comes up to the front. That's good stuff.
Absolutely.
I think I said this before for Robotech, and I got it wrong last time, but I think we might have the same number one.
Oh, we might. I was just thinking that. I wondered if I messed up, and we usually do our honorable mentions here.
We usually do, but whatever.
I'm so sorry.
Did you do your own? You did your honorable mentions earlier, right?
Yeah, we did them in the beginning, but I'll have to I should make a note for next year's, whoever's on with me.
Wait, what? Freudian slip. I thought you were planning to kill me, or just planning to. So I just want to ask you, in listing my number one, because what my number one is, it will be my question. So my number one is Zurusugiru yo Aizawa Usui no Aho. Too Cruel Aizawa and Usui the Idiot, episode 26, when they kiss in the new series.
That is my number one as well.
Okay, finally. I was like, I can't see how it couldn't be.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. We'll be able to see the fireworks and no one will bother us.
Are we allowed in here?
We're not doing anything wrong, so it should be fine.
Hang on.
What's wrong? Ayuzawa.
What's with you? There's nothing wrong at all.
Is that right? Then I'm glad. Maybe we should go somewhere else. It would be more fun to see the bonfire up close, right?
Are you holding back?
About the fireworks? I don't care too much.
That's not what I'm talking about. Have you been holding yourself back all this time because of me?
Why do you think that?
No reason. I just sort of thought that maybe that was the case.
Huh. How perceptive.
So you have been holding back. What if
you... Ayuzawa. Are you trying to make me say it? Then if you answer my question, I'll answer yours too.
What?
What makes you care about me?
What kind of question is that? I guess my answer is I don't know.
You don't know? Then did you know that at times like this it's impossible for you to lie?
What are you talking about?
Ayuzawa, why is your face turning so red?
It's not red at all.
Are you nervous?
No, I'm not.
Ayuzawa, aren't you the one who's holding back? I'm sorry, I went too far.
I am holding back. I've been holding back. Why did it turn out this way? Why did it have to be you? I don't get it at all. You're a pervert, and all you do is piss me off. You're still running ahead of me, making it look so easy. You make fun of me all the time.
Calm
This
down.
is your fault. If I hadn't done that stupid game, I wouldn't have realized. The truth is, I've always wanted to hold your hand. Just when I think I've got you figured out, it's like you lose me again. What are you thinking? I just don't get it. I don't understand why my heart won't stop racing when I'm around you, or why I have to get so lonely when we're apart. Why are you... You're the only one who can make me feel like this. Stupid Usui. Why do you always have to pick a fight with me?
You really are cruel, Ayuzawa. How much longer do you plan to make me hold back? I pick fights with you because I want to see your reactions. Normally, you're the hard-headed student council president, but suddenly you'll look cute or surprised, or you'll be completely worked up over nothing. You asked me if I've been holding back. I've held back so many times that I can't give an answer. Just like right now. Thinking right this very second, Misa. I love you, Ayuzawa.
I really hate you.
True to form. You're too cruel, Ayuzawa.
Stupid Usui.
So it's your show. You want to talk about it?
Well, no, I will give you that honor.
Oh, man, I forgot what happens. So throughout this, was it a two-parter or was it all in this episode?
It was a two-parter because the one I just mentioned, the second half of it is they go to that festival mainly to be with Misaki's friends.
That's right.
Because that one girl likes the Uexmishi or whatever they're called, Umishi, that little band, and then they get roped into that little competition. Well, the competition starts, I guess, with this episode.
That's right, yeah. Side note, I really like Shizuku.
Yeah. She doesn't have any time for, what's her name?
Sakura.
Yeah, any time for that, and she just yells at her, and Sakura, oh my god.
It's a bit like, we waited here for 2 hours. That's plenty of time for me to lecture you. I think that's good stuff. She's cool. I love girls with glasses and short hair. Like that's why Sailor Mercury's my favorite Sailor Scout. But anyway, there's this whole thing where they have to compete in this. I forget why they have to do this, but like they have to compete in this sort of competition where they're essentially together and they gotta hold hands throughout the whole thing, right? And they have to at one point he has to feed her. She can't use her chopsticks with her right hand. So she can't use her chopsticks because her feeding hand is kind of because they have to hold hands the entire time through this competition.
Yep.
So he has to feed her, and they kind of go through this sort of like almost tunnel of love-esque kind of thing. And it's very, very much kind of designed for couples. And, you know, she's just like bitching and moaning about the whole thing essentially. But ultimately there's a part where I think they end up in a crowd and he lets go of her hand. And she either like grabs it in reaction or just like wishes that he didn't do that. So it's actually fairly manipulative because he kind of, I think, talked her into this, knowing how this is going to happen to her psychologically. But it ends up they are dressed as Romeo and Juliet and end up in a building where they can kind of see the fireworks at the end of the day. And they couldn't see it with their friends closer, and he even offers that. But she stops him and says, okay, stop it. Like, you know, why am I like this? Why do you always leave me so confused? Why you sexually harass me and you make fun of me and you tease me, and then you always go away. And when you're not here, I wonder where you've gone to. And why am I always wanting my hand to be held by yours? I don't understand. And she starts rambling. He's even like Ayuzawa, and like and he's like, you're really too cruel. Also, like this is all because Kyuga, the guy from the rock band, had said, why are you he's holding back. Why are you so cruel to him? Because he had asked her, are you guys officially dating? She was like, no, of course not. So she's really in her feelings that like, oh, he's holding back, and like, what does that mean? And so the poor girl is so confused by how she feels and what he's feeling. So she just starts rambling, and she's being very honest, saying, I want you to hold my hand. I don't want you to leave me, and all that kind of stuff. You know, what is wrong with me, and why have you done this to me, and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, don't you see I'm crazy about you? Which he had said before. He just kind of repeats for like the fifth time. You're like, I am in love with you. And then once the fireworks start, he takes her head and she holds his hand and they kiss. And that's a really nice image, I think. And so she even repeats after that, you know, I love you. She's like, I hate you, Usui, you idiot. But they're still holding hands. And that's the end of the show. Spoilers!
Spoilers indeed. Yep. That's the beginning of their relationship. And just because they're together there doesn't mean that, you know, it's all nice, but she still has to work on her feelings. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is like that whole verbal vomit at the end and finally, you know, wrestling with this, like, I'm so confused and these are my feelings and everything. I think he's caught off guard because, you know, she doesn't normally talk like that, but it's a true moment of honesty between the two of them. I love the contest, right? He took it as a sign from Magical Erica because she said that you'll undergo some sort of challenge and if you win, you might be able to make it. It starts with this magic locket, I think is like the passport kind of, you know, we're in this competition. So it starts with him putting this necklace around her and then they hold hands. And yeah, you got the food competition and then they start destroying the competition faster. And you think they were the only couples, but you hear mentions of other couples, but they're like destroying everyone else. And they get this weird following of people like talking about this super couple, which is really hilarious. Another moment I like is when they're in that balloon ball pit and they have to find a particular balloon and she's like really into the competition now and is having fun and she like squeezes his hand to pull him like, hey, let's find this balloon, and that shocks him and surprises him as well and catches him off guard. But yeah, that whole thing, I very much like that. And even, yeah, when he lets go of her hand, like she clearly feels that void, and I think they get lost in the crowd at one point and she goes to reach for his hand out of instinct. So I think those are all moments of like, oh, she's understanding what this is really like. And the Romeo and Juliet, however, sort of negative foreshadowing, but, you know, things don't necessarily happen in that way with all that stuff. But, yeah, just a really nice moment at the end. The fireworks, as you said, nice little foreshadowing there. And, yeah, nice kiss and holding the hands and going back to normal as well, being a stupid Usui and too cruel Aizawa. So, yeah, I think it's a nice end to the series.
I was saying, the thing I was messaging you that, like, near the last few episodes, I was getting a little bit annoyed because he had since said, you know, I'm in love with you. And maybe because I'm an adult, I can kind of see how he's flirting with her. And she was still like, you know, oh, you're just being a weird alien pervert, you know, like blah, blah, blah. You're never serious. And like, and then when she would kind of get confused, I was like, okay, come on. Like, you can't be, you're not dumb. You're not unintelligent. So like, I'm glad that like, I was worried that this series would end without some sort of catharsis in that way. I was worried that like they weren't going to kiss. I was worried that there wasn't going to be any change, and it was going to be like, oh, the last episode is another competition. So I was getting concerned that like they weren't going to go anywhere. So when they did, and she said, you know, I don't know how I feel, and you made me confused. I was like, thank you. Here we are. So I enjoyed. You know, there was no wrongdoing, I think, on their part.
And I'm happy to report that the final chapter of the manga fast forwards, I think, 10 years. And she is a diplomat, and he is a doctor to some king in England, actually, and they get married.
Oh, good. They don't end it with other people.
No. So it is a nice little happy ending. And they're like flying away on a helicopter, which is like hanging onto a rope. It was, or hanging onto a ladder. And she calls him stupid Usui, and he says, "You realize you're an Usui now too," which I thought was really good. So it ends really well. And if you decide after this to watch the show and you really like, I do highly recommend the manga. It's shipperific for sure, and hijinks and the little idiots and more hijinks. I definitely recommend that. Yeah.
Well, how far does the anime get into the manga series? Like, would you say like it's like halfway? Is it a third of the way? Is it most of the way?
Interesting. Maybe. I would say halfway.
Okie dokie. Gotcha.
There are 18 chapters, so about 9 or 10, I think.
Okie dokie. So I find it interesting that you said that they started switching up the order of some things.
Maybe they realized that it wasn't going to go for a second, and they wanted that climax to. I don't know how ordering episodes works, but maybe they wanted that climax to be the kiss.
Well, I can see how it would be difficult to kind of have a second season and just be like, this is a couple, but she's also a maid, and she. I can see the manga continuing, as a singular narrative, but this one being a little weird as like, because most anime now aren't given more than a budget for 26 episodes. Yeah. So I can kind of get how, it's not so much a cliffhanger, but it's kind of the end of that story, which is a shame because I would like to kind of check out the manga and see how things wrapped up. That's how I kind of did with Uran. I didn't necessarily read it, but I read what happens because I was curious.
Yep.
And that's why I think that, I really like Uran, but I do like how, I like this more because this, I forget how much romance actually was in Uran. To me, it was much more of kind of an ensemble comedy show because it ended with like that horse race and stuff, and Tamaki thinking he had to go back to his family. Yes. I don't remember them ever like really getting together. So this one is a lot more cathartic.
Yeah, I think they're just holding hands potentially at the end. No, I guess there is a kiss because doesn't the father freak out that that was the father who also cross dresses that that was her first kiss or whatever.
Wasn't that with the woman?
Oh, that is right. Oh, yeah. Bobelia. Oh, man. And I always remember Renge. Oh, man. Well, I'm glad you liked it. I thought you were going to be, like, stomping around, being all angry over me forcing you to watch this.
You forced me to watch a list of things. Well, it got to a point where like I want to watch more. It was I know I'm into an anime where I'm like, okay, one more episode. I wanted to, and I didn't like everything in terms of like attention span.
Yeah.
Like I kind of was like halfway looking at my phone. The episode of like the folktale.
Oh yes, yeah, with the peach.
Yeah, I wasn't really paying much attention to that. I was like, let's go and get back to like the hijinks and stuff. And there would be kind of one-off, almost filler episodes, which I'm sure was in the original series, where you get to other characters like one of the three idiots was like a gang boss, and there's another episode with Aoi and Kano and Yukimura making a music video. I kind of didn't pay much attention to those, but like when they got back to the whole, him and her face and like her feeling like flustered and stuff, I'm like, hey, yeah, here we go.
Yeah, they're the main ones that we certainly care about. Yukimura, you want to talk a bit about him, didn't you, before we end?
Well, there's a whole, Aoi is this like online net idol who is like a 14-year-old boy who's just as a woman, and he has a following because people believe that Aoi, the net idol, is a girl. And you have Yukimura, who maintains that, I'm a boy, there's nothing feminine about me, but he has this kind of very like kind of simpering disposition which people associate with femininity. So, and I think that like female mangaka are much more interested in issues of gender. If you look at Rumi Takahashi, I hope that's the correct name, who is behind works like Ranma 1.5, where the purpose or the story of that is a boy who falls in the water and becomes a girl.
Oh.
If you look at Sailor Moon, there's a lot of queer characters. There's a lot of like queer. I mentioned before a few years ago with Sailor Mercury and Sailor Mercury. Sailor Uranus and Sailor Neptune are together. There are Sailor Scouts who turn from men into women. There's queer villains there. There's like, the Uran because I believe Uran was written by a woman, right? Yeah, there's that whole thing with the cross dressing. So I think women manga writers and artists are just generally more engaged with issues of gender and topics of gender. So I think that like this one, I mean, I don't know what they're trying to say with Yukimura and Aoi, but you can infer that it's just idea of what we're born as doesn't define us in terms of how we present gender wise, which is forward thinking, especially in 2010. But you just kind of wonder how seriously that's taken in its actual society. But again, I don't know for sure what that is. So that's just, it was interesting in this very like kind of like, you know, hetero straightforward romance that kind of kept popping up throughout the show.
And the weird thing is that if Usui hadn't assaulted Yukimura with the kiss, I don't know that any of the following stuff with Yukimura would have happened.
Yeah, it was just kind of a drag for him. He's thought of as being feminine. Kano is comfortable around him, and I think has said something, you know, kind of is the gateway between being comfortable with women almost, because you've got Yukimura. Yukimura is kidnapped at one point by the delinquents because he's thought to be a girl. He has to run that race accidentally with the Maid outfit that was that was made by the three idiots. So it's very interesting. There's actually a really hilarious moment that I had to rewind just because of how well I think it's, I guess, acted as well as written, but he goes to get, it was the hypnotism episode, and he goes to get some blueberry extract, and he leaves the room, and Usui's there, and he says something, I can't remember what he says, but he says, she, because, like, he's about to, Yukimura is, isn't she? And so the fact that people are confusing poor Yukimura, I don't know, is Yukimura gay potentially? Was he forced into that? It's like he didn't have a choice, though. It's almost like he was forced into that because of the kiss with Usui. There's another lap-up moment that I had with Yukimura where, like, in the camping episode, at the end, the three idiots are kind of having this sort of, like, you know, blood fever with, like, we gotta find a girl. There's one over there. And it kind of just pans over to this Yukimura.
Oh, poor guy.
That one got me. That one made me laugh out loud.
Oh, heavens. Oh, boy. Well, I am so glad that you enjoyed this.
Well, thank you very much. It was another rounding success in terms of a recommendation. And then we don't have to talk about irregular high school stuff. Like,
okay.
I look forward to what you or I were going to recommend to each other.
Well, you've seen Carol and Tuesday, right?
I'm not.
That'll be my next recommendation then, I guess.
You're not going to bring somebody else.
Oh, no, I'm just saying you should watch it. It's in the same universe as Cowboy Bebop, too.
Yeah, because I know, because Harry and I were just, we talk about stuff all the time in between recording, and like we'd mentioned like other stuff that Shinichiro Watanabe, who did Cowboy Bebop, has done, and I know he did that. And I think one of our guests on our show, Kelly, had mentioned it too. So, like, I was aware of that show when you started posting on Facebook. So I will definitely check that out.
Yeah, and that's another thing that gets into, I think, gender identity. And it brings up a lot of issues that are current now. It talks about immigration and, like I said, gender identities and things like that, and queerness. So I highly recommend that. And music, it's all surrounding music. So similar to Cowboy Bebop.
Okay. Unfortunately, the anime that I've been watching outside of this is Psycho-Pass, but there's no real romance in that. So it's dark and violent. So I recommend it, but not on the same level.
You know, my general one is slice of life. That's my go-to genre.
And would you call this slice of life, or is this kind of romantic
That's interesting. Maybe. I also like school anime. So that I think that was why I may have trended towards it. Potentially, but I do think it is a romantic comedy as well, yeah.
I don't know if I've seen Slice of Life, so I'm not sure what to compare it to, because this one's very, like, there's a lot of romantic tension, there's a lot of comedy, so I would imagine Slice of Life would be a bit more grounded than this, but again, you've seen more than I have, so I'm not sure.
Well, it's that time where you tell listeners where they can find you.
You'd find me on Batgirl to Oracle next month talking about Batgirl.
We don't know. No. We don't know. Don't tell them lies. We don't know. I don't know why you're laughing. This is serious business, sir.
Exactly right. This is a very, very good story that you were going to.
And I have a backup co-host when you fail me.
When I fail, such you little thing. Did you ever doubt that I was going to get through this show? Like, what if I said, I'm not going to watch?
I don't know.
Show?
Well, here you have a poor track record, I would say. Because as we were talking, I remember I recommended to you Samurai Champloo, and you still haven't watched that. It took you years to watch Your Name. Finally, you did. You haven't read The Power, which I gave you last year. And then, this Last of Us business, I think you were given it last year, and still nothing?
By Harry.
by Harold himself. So I don't know. Anyway, so he might be on Friends. He might be on. He might not. Who knows?
Well, he has read those issues because off of my recommendation. This is the recommendation podcast. So you can find Stella on the next episode of Questions We Don't Have Answers.
I can't believe it.
When she teams up with her old companion, Professor Karen Cook. Is she Professor?
The prof. Yeah, let's only call her Professor on that episode.
The Professor. She, Carol, and Harry will tag team on me, and we'll have this basic, cloud up, dust up fight over the upcoming Harley Quinn film, which is for some reason called Birds of Prey. On Questions We Don't Have Answers, asking the question, what is the future of women in the action genre? And if you forget about that episode, just know that I do a podcast with Harrison Chute called Questions We Don't Have Answers that can be found on QNoAnswers.com. I also write for DC Universe. It's hard to find. You can't really search my name, but just look on the news section. You can find the things that I've written under my accredited name. And you can find me I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. Just do the math and you can find me there.
Indeed. And I will be stalking Donovan and posting updates every week on his PlayStation. I forgot to do it last night, but I'll do it today to see if he logs in and what games he has played recently. So far, it's been over a month, and I saw Spider-Man. I saw Street Fighter 5. And I can't remember what the third one was that you have.
That's Mega Man 11.
There you go. Yep, but Last of Us, nope, not even loaded up on his good old PlayStation. So.
Well, my room was, I told you my room was rearranged.
It sure was. It was feng shuied.
Yes, so it's right in front of me right now. As I'm literally, on my right is my PS4, on my left are my books where I can see The Power by Naomi Alderman. So
wow.
I'm trapped by choices.
Yeah, I guess once you finish reading all your James Baldwin, you can finally start on that.
Indeed. So I also recommend as a literature recommendation, Shadow of the Batgirl by Sarah Cunn and illustrated by Nicole Gall.
Wow, okay. And I assume you're going to be doing a review on the BatmanUniverse.net.
It's already written. This has to be posted by, I think, Ian Miller.
Lovely. Okay. Well, remember, you can send any questions or comments to batgirltheoracle@gmail.com. You can find the show on Google Play and Stitcher, like the show on Facebook, or follow it on Twitter @BatgirlTheOracle, and follow the Batman Universe on Facebook and Twitter as well. And be sure to support the Batman Universe by subscribing to Patreon. Once again, thanks to Mile High Comics for sponsoring Batgirl the Oracle, the Barbara Gordon podcast. And until next time.
Same Maid time, same Maid channel.
There you go. Fly on, Babs lovers.
And shippers
everywhere.
And
shippers everywhere. Shippers everywhere. Shippers everywhere. Could you imagine?
Just plain Barbara Gordon, masquerading for a lark as she rides into the night on her special Batgirl cycle. Who knows? Is the dynamic duo destined to become the triumphant trio? Only time will tell us more about this dazzling daredoll.
I love a happy ending, don't you?
The internet's rife with footage of Spider-Man chasing the Black Cat across the rooftops. And apparently there are hordes of young people cheering them on. They're called shippers. No, that has nothing to do with boats. It's short for relationship. As in, they really want Spider-Man and the Black Cat to be together romantically. Or they really don't. And they have quite intense arguments about it. Flame wars, I believe, is the term. You know, in my day, we didn't have time for flame wars about shipping. You know why? Because we had jobs. So here's J. Jonah Jameson's public service announcement to our youth. You're into shipping? Join the Navy!